Thank you. Delaware, I like to say, is north of south and south of north, and we're getting more south than north. And so say that a couple of times. And so one of the things that we are interested in doing to see if we can have some adaptive or stress mitigation strategies to do a couple things. One, increase our production seasons. Two, see if there are things from further south that might be better adapted here now. Sometimes we do find that, and sometimes we don't. So we've been looking at a lot of different crops, small fruit crops, and three projects I'm going to talk to you about today are one with day neutral or repeat blooming strawberries, where we're trying to increase the growing season into the summer period, get some fall production off of the same strawberry crop so we can extend that strawberry production from our typical June bearer types. So we'll start off with that. Our issue with growing these day neutral or strawberries that will continue to bloom and continue to produce is they do stop with heat. You know, they have the potential to keep going, but once it gets too hot, they just stop altogether. When it gets cooler in the fall, in late summer and fall, they'll start to rebloom. So we wanted to see is, number one, can we change that somehow? And then number two, what can we do with the varieties that are available? One of the big issues is day neutral varieties, where are almost all of them, have they been bred for? California. We have a California climate here? No, not quite. All right, so we're trying to square peg in a round hole. We're trying to force things that aren't bred for this area. Now, good news is Kim Lewis at Beltsville is starting to work on developing day neutral varieties for this region. And maybe 5 years down the road, we'll get something that'll work here better. But right now, we're trying to force those California-bred strawberries to do things they weren't meant to do. So we're working with varieties like Albion, Seascape, a very old variety, day-neutral variety that it's off patent now, so it's something that's readily available through the nurseries. We also looked at some varieties from overseas. This is a British-bred variety to see if we could use those and a number of different cultural practices like cutting them back, let them regrow. But what I want to show you is some of the things that we were doing to try to look at heat mitigation. So our approach was to take different mulch colors. Black is what we plant things on normally for the June bearers for that annual system. It's going to be too hot for the summer for us. We want to look at white. White doesn't get you off quick in the spring, but it could carry you in through the summer. And then the aluminized, the reflective mulch. Then one other practice we looked at is laying drip tape on top of the plastic to cool the plastic, keep a cool environment around the plant. And then the third thing we looked at is shade cloth, where we're looking at white and reflective or the aluminate type shade cloth over top the strawberry. This was the year that we did at least one of these trials in. What do you notice there? How many days over 90 are on there? 15 days. So half of July was over 90 degrees. Think that's good strawberry growing weather? All right, so that's kind of a challenge that we have, and that you don't get that every year. We've had a couple mild years in July, but 2011, 2012 was horrible too, as far as having summer heat. So let's look at what we got with plastic color effects. What do you first note? B would be black, S would be silver reflective, and W would be white. What's the first thing you notice? Almost no production on the black for this. This was spring planted for getting into summer production. The reflective mulch did very well. You notice there's certainly variety difference. Each little colored bar is a picking. So you can see where we got a lot of production and how even the production was, and then toward the end of the season. So we carried this from July 19th to the 1st of December. And most of the time, we would get into late August and they would start to drop off from there. And you would see smaller yields. Some of them would not go into the fall very well, like Evie, but Albion certainly continued flowering. What we need to do here is, in this kind of work, is actually evaluate a lot of different varieties. This was the four, you're kind of limited what you can do in research. But you saw that the reflective was giving us better yields than the white mulch too. So it's kind of interesting effect there. And I don't have the water dripping on the top of the beds, but that did have an effect too where we were using that. This is the shade cloth, and it's a little more mixed here. The first set of 4 bars is with no shade cloth. The second is with the aluminate, and the third was with white shade cloth. And we did see some effects. With Evie, we saw an increase in yields where we had the aluminate over top. And we saw with white Evie also. So that was a responsive to being shaded. Others had very little response. So Albion did not look very well under shade. In fact, it stopped producing, and we really couldn't even go into fall with it. So interesting effects. Again, we need to do more varieties, more testing to see how each one, because it looks like there's going to be interaction here. And just to talk about how we could apply this on farm, we took this on farm with a grower, had 2 varieties of white plastic mulch of day neutrals, Albion and San Andreas, and then we put them under 4 different mulch colors, there was all white mulch, but 4 different shade cloth colors. We had red, white, the standard black, and a tan. And unfortunately, it was cool years. What do you do when you put shade cloth over strawberries in cool years? Doesn't do anything, right? It actually decreases yield. So he found that the white mulch probably did the best of all those. Second project that we were working on is with primocane blackberries. Those are blackberries that it'll grow the shoots and it'll fruit on this year's shoot. What we wanted to do was to see, after talking to Dr. Clark at the University of Arkansas, who's been breeding these primocane varieties, is could we actually double fruit them? Take this year's growth, make it like a normal blackberry or a floricane type, harvest off the floricane, and then bring up new primocanes and actually harvest 2 seasons on the same plant. And we'll show you that. These are some of the early varieties from that program. And since then, they've released, these are the first 2 ones. They're not really good commercial quality, but they've released 2 others now. And these are thorny. That was the first good commercial variety, but it's got a lot of thorns on it. You will see it if you harvest it, because your hands will be bloody by the end of the day. But the next one that he released next was this Freedom. It's the first thornless primocane or fall-bearing blackberry. And so very large, maybe not the best as productive, but those blackberries are like this. They're just giant. Good soluble solids. It's more of a local. It's not one really good for long distance shipping. So this program's been releasing varieties. We've got some of the experimentals from the program early on to test them in the east, because blackberries, what kind of climate do they like? All brambles. They like Oregon. That's what they like. Yeah, so you get into where they grow a lot of brambles. It's that cool days, warm, not too cold at night, but not too extreme in the day. That's why they grow probably twice the yield out there than we do. What Dr. Clark's been doing is trying to breed for heat tolerance for the east. So that's the next thing I want to talk a little bit about is, can we actually breed for heat tolerance? And how much heat tolerance can we breed into crops that aren't normally heat tolerant? So how heat tolerant can we make a strawberry? How heat tolerant can we make a blackberry? But they're working on it, so what they'd like to do is test it in a range of environments, which certainly we were eager to be part of that testing. So our trials started with this idea of double fruiting with a 2-year-old planting. We had the ARC 45 and these 5 different experimentals. And so I want to show you the 214 results. That's what some of the berries look like. But what I want you to notice here is we started harvesting on the 23rd of June and we finished on the 7th of November. double fruiting. So we're able to, and as the climate, you shift into the fall, we could probably extend this into later November. We've gone into, if we have a good November without a hard freeze, we can go into December doing this. This is the yield on the floricanes, so the ones that we grew last year and then we fruited them the next year of the same thing, and this is the fall yield. All right. So this is very, very encouraging for extending the fruiting of, in this case, blackberries. One minor detail is that we have a new pest. You know what we're talking about. The spotted-winged Drosophila, they love brambles. And so this makes this system a little less workable until we get some kind of better, control, because we're spraying these every other day later in the year. All right, just to show you some pictures, here is a 2-year planting of grapes. That's what normally it should look like. That's what we got. What year was it, 2013? 13, yep, 13. Yep. So we had hybrids we have no damage on. All right, so Chamberson, Vidal, all those. But, and so that's what it wouldn't be nice to look like. Let's see, Cab Franc, you can see Chardonnay, they all had over 50% plant loss that year in this planting. And that's this whole idea of fluctuating temperatures at the wrong time. And we got down at this site, you won't believe it's to -10. We've never seen -10 on a research farm. I think it shows, it's probably a frost pocket, but the land is flat, so I don't know what a frost pocket is on our farm. But yeah, last project we'll talk quickly about is one that Emily's in the room with me, that we've worked together on. She's taking the lead, was certain blueberry research. So we have plantings both on our farm and a cooperator farm. We started from scratch, number of different studies. But the main thing I'm going to look at is the idea here was to evaluate southern highbush in our area. Why would we want to do that? Where do they grow southern highbush? Where's the big industry for southern highbush? North Carolina. All right. Are we likely to be more like North Carolina in the future? Should be, if everything goes the way that we think. So all those in red are southern highbush, and then the legacy is the southern northern cross, right? So you can see where they came from. A lot of them out of the North Carolina program, a couple out of Florida, Georgia, and then Mississippi. What I want you to see here is that we are finding that some of the southern highbush are performing as well or better and are more vigorous in our conditions than our standard northern highbush. So Jubilee is, that's the cross. Oh, that's a straight southern highbush. Legacy would be another one. Misty is another one. And you can see how they're performing compared to the others in the early planting. This is one of the issues, though, is some of the southern highbush are more susceptible to winter injury, some more damage. And so Emily developed this chart from her research where she rated the winter kill on buds, and you can see legacies, the cross, right? One of the ones you want to see there is Lenore. Yeah, Lenore. Good southern, good yields, good vigor, and no winter injury. So this has been very valuable for us to say, can we adapt some of these southern highbush to Delaware? And maybe this is a way that we want to go in the future for growers. And so that's legacy early on. That's, how do you pronounce it, Emily?
I say Lenore.
All right. Yeah, Lenore. That's Jubilee. You can see the vigor of that southern highbush there. All right. And so we got a bunch of specialty crop block grants that helped us with us for season extension, new crop evaluations, and multiple blueberry grants. Emily for all the blueberry work, definitely. And then all our minions that help us do this. All right.
Many of your strawberry mulch and Jim, was you change any of your water management practices to accommodate some of the?
Well, yeah, I mean, what we always tell growers to do is irrigate early in the morning so you keep the bed cooler longer during the day.
That was pretty much standard across.
Yeah, the only thing we did differently was running water on top also.
Does the cold tolerance have anything to do with the wind and wind speed too when you have that cold?
Well, I would say so. I didn't talk about our fig experiment. So we thought, let's bring up some of the fig varieties and some of the hardy types and put them on one of our farms. And he put it in a very unprotected area. And then we even wrapped things for winter protection, and we had little tunnels for it. But it was just too wide open for them. So yes, it can. The having excess wind can really hurt things. Yeah.
So we have this big temperature fluctuation this year. 1 week we had like 60, and the next week we were like below 32. How do you think this is going to affect?
Well, I mean, the whole idea of bud, how much were the buds advanced? So we'll know later on. Things like peaches, I don't think it'll be a problem with, unless the people were out pruning early, which tends not to make them deacclimate. But it all depends on the crop. There's some. I grow a few apricots, which I get a crop once every 7 years. So.